what would you say would define success in 2013 for this team?
Well, I changed a number of years ago, Chip, and the job that I have and our coaches have, in my estimation, is to get this team to be as good as they can be. That's our job. Now, that's very gray. So what does that mean? To me, that means that you want to strive to win every game. That's what we should do. I've said repeatedly, 9's not enough at Texas. Other teams in this league win 9, they're pumped. They're giving the coaches raises and contract extensions and having parades. That doesn't happen at Texas. And we're the reason it doesn't happen. I understand that. We created where we are, and I like it. So, but to me, when people say, do you have to win 9? Do you have to win 10? I think it's the dumbest thing in the world to have a number out there. Let's win them all. I think what a bad message to everybody in our building and our players if I say, yeah, 9 will be fine, 10 be good. 10 will be good. So that means, okay, which 3 are we going to lose? And then they start sitting around saying, well, he don't think we can beat this team, and he sure doesn't think we can beat this team, and, well, he must not have much confidence. So I went into last year hoping we would win every game. And we looked like we were on a roll. We were doing good. We got beat late against West Virginia, stuck against Oklahoma, got back on a roll, and then took a couple other weeks and got beat up. So I truly think that now we have a chance every week. Now, it's our job to keep our mouth shut and coach. It's their job to keep their mouth shut and play. And we also need to do a better job with injuries. And I think if we play better and we got more depth, we'll have players on the field defensively a lot less, and they won't be hurt as much. So, and Coach Royal said, you got to be good enough, and you got to be lucky. You have a little luck. We haven't had much luck in the last few years. I'm ready to have some thrown our way.
You've mentioned several times about depth and how important that is. No one wants to go through what you guys went through last year at linebacker with all the injury issues, but that forced you guys to play a lot of different players in that position. Is that kind of a blessing in disguise now to some of these guys that are going to be counted on this year?
It is. If you go back and look at our offense 2 years ago, it wasn't very good because we had inconsistent quarterback play. And then we started running the ball as well as we've run it since we've been in Texas. We had back-to-back games of 441 yards rushing and lost all the backs. But our offense last year got better. So we didn't run it as well all the time, but we got better. We showed the ability that we could play in this league as good as the offenses are. At times last year, we were one of them. Defensively, we were really good 2 years ago. We led the league in rushing. Last year, we stunk. We had that 5-game series where we didn't stop anybody. I got tired watching them run up down the field. It's just unbelievable. So then all of a sudden, we got a little bit better. But I think the hard knocks that we've had, the injuries that we've had, what we've been forced to do the last couple of years is really going to pay benefits this year. Our schedule's really hard. Brigham Young's better than people would have thought up there. Ole Miss is hot. We're not in an easy schedule, so this is going to be fun for us to go compete, and I think everybody's ready for that.
The 9-game round.
Ladies first.
No.
Okay, now
ladies first.
He's right.
Ladies first.
I'll wait.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Coach Bryan talked about how that 9-game round robin actually knocked out some national title contenders. The perception in the past has been a conference championship game does that. Do you have a preference on I know in the past you've spoken out against the conference championship, but he did make a point that late a non-conference game against a lesser opponent might have put one of those teams in the national title.
Yeah, I think that, in my opinion, not Texas' opinion, my opinion is I like what we've got. I like the fact that you have a true champion. I like the fact that you have to earn it every week during the season. And so many times we had a championship game where the best team lost. And to me, if you'd earned your right to that point and you were looking to something bigger and you got upset, it wasn't the best for college football at that time. So I really like the fact that you got to overcome the weather, you got to overcome injuries, and you play everybody. And then at the end, everybody knows who played the others, and there's a winner and a loser every week, and it's one of the reasons we've upgraded our out-of-conference schedule because we don't have a conference championship game, and I'm still not sure with the college football playoff what's going to happen. I haven't heard who's choosing teams yet. That concerns me. I'd like to know how they're going to be chosen. I haven't heard strength of schedule yet. I'd like to know that we're going to be forced to play a strong schedule if we're going to have a chance to get in those 4 games, because to me that's better for college football, because we all want to get to the 4 games. And if there's not a component of strength of schedule in there, coaches and athletic directors aren't going to play the best teams. Right. They shouldn't. I mean, the objective is to get to the end and win the game. So I want to see those things, and I want to see how that works. But we're preparing, playing the Notre Dames and the USCs and UCLA next year. We're preparing for strength of schedule to be huge, and the lack of a conference championship game not being a detriment to keep us out of the last 4 games.
Do you want computers to remain in the process or completely out of it?
It's not my place because I haven't studied it enough, but to me, what I would love to see is ex-coaches, ex-athletic directors, ex-commissioners, maybe ex-media on the committee. And I would like to have a really good video set up, paid for by the playoff system for each one of them. And I would like to have them watching the video of games each week, even if it's highlights that are cut up by the playoff system, and then they can look at it. Because I've been a voter, and all of a sudden you're leaving Oxford, Mississippi at 4 in the morning, and I've got to have my vote in by noon the next day, and I got to get home, grade our film, and I'm worn out. And I don't know whether a quarterback got hurt. I see scores. I don't know whether it rained and poured, and so I'm guessing. And I don't think that we should have it where if R.C. Slocum is on this committee, he shouldn't have a vote for Texas A&M. And if Spike Dykes is on this committee, he shouldn't have a vote for Texas Tech, because I've sat here with us being 1 or 2 or 3 trying to figure out what's the honest evaluation of our team, and it's not fair to our kids. If I send a message to them, I don't think they're good enough. So it really puts you in a very difficult position as a coach to do what you think is fair and right with your integrity and to represent your team, and you got to live with that team and that fan base. So to me, there's a group of people out there, I think, beyond the basketball that we can do, but I think ex-coaches would be great. Ex-athletic directors would be great, and Vince Dooley's done both. Here's a guy that knows football, and he could sit there and evaluate that. And we take all of the regional prejudice out of it. We take all of our own school prejudice out of it. And at the same time, I do think there probably is a place for a computer, but the computer doesn't know the weather, and the computer they didn't get it. And I used to say, the computer wasn't there. They didn't. I asked them.
Impartial, though.
They were impartial, but I'm not sure that the components some put in their computers weren't partial to their part of the country. So I would like the computers to be used for what they are. They don't have the human element. So let's use them for stats. Let's use them to spit out things that we think are very valuable. And then you've got to figure out if you play a Rice at the first of the year, like we played one year, and people didn't think they were good, so the strength of schedule for Rice wasn't good, and then they won 10 games. Mm-hmm. Was it when you played them or at the end of the year? I don't know. That one gets more difficult for me. If we played West Virginia last year and beat them, and then they lost the last 6 games, is that a big win because they were undefeated and they were 5-0 when we played them, or is it a bad team at 5-6? Those things are difficult for me, so I'm not really sure, because maybe Texas beating West Virginia led to them losing the last 6, or maybe the quarterback got hurt or something. So, but I think the most important part of what we have left is how we choose the teams fairly. And I'm not talking about just the top 4. I'm talking about the ones that are playing in the bowl games, and what component of strength of schedule is in there, if we want to quit talking about having great games across the country, and if we want to play them. Because we're not going to play them now unless it is mandatory for you to get to the end. Right now, there are teams across the country that couldn't possibly get in this 4-game playoff because of their schedule. Mm-hmm. They couldn't possibly get in. So is that going to change? Or are you going to tell your fan base and your president before the season starts, we don't care, we're not going to go? I don't see that happening now. So I think that if we want the best teams to all have to step up and play, we better put a strength of schedule component in there, or it won't change.
Is it possible with the number of FBS teams for everyone to have a shot at 4 spots?
I don't think so. I think you're usually talking about probably 25 or 30 realistically. Right. But That's what I mean. Do the others have to schedule better to get there? You see a lot of people playing 1AA teams, and I don't want that to change if that's who they are, and it helps football and it helps 1AA. But are you going to let that still get you to the end? I don't know.
With as many players as you have returning this year, your team was picked fourth in preseason. Does that mean there's skeptics out there, people that still maybe don't respect Texas? What's your answer to them?
I think that what I heard in looking at I didn't watch it very closely because I'm never. If people got fired for who they picked, they'd be more careful. And nobody knows who they pick at the end. You can't ever find anybody picked us fourth. If we won it all, I knew they were going to be good. I was trying to hold expectations down. But what I see is that what they did is they picked 4 teams that they thought were all so close that they really had trouble picking them in place. The votes were so close. And what I said this morning is you could really pick 10 teams. You could pick 9 teams because I don't know who was 9th. I don't care. I don't know who was first. I honestly don't. I didn't look because to me there's not that much difference in our teams, and we could very, very easily have the 9th place team win the league, and Charlie's going to bring Kansas on fast. So I think the message is that when you have 4 teams voted that closely together, that we have the most balanced league across the country, and I think that's impressive, but tougher on the coaches and tougher on the fans. Baylor and TCU are better. Oklahoma State's better than when we got here. All those teams are better. So the old fact that Texas is going to beat Baylor just because they're playing the game, it's not the fact anymore. You got to play.
Is there a team in the conference? Is your team a team in the conference that could emerge as being a great team?
No doubt. No doubt. There's no question in my mind. At midseason last year, people thought Baylor wouldn't go to a bowl, and they ended up winning 8, I think. So how do you know? I mean, it depends on who stays healthy. It depends on who steps on the pedal. When you got to make the plays, did you make them? We made them at Oklahoma State. We didn't make them at West Virginia. We didn't play at OU.
Will David Ash make those plays for you this year?
He has. He's got to make it all the time. I don't think David's gotten near the credit that he deserves. To win 10 out of the last 13 games, if you would poll this group and ask how many games he's won out of the last 13, they'd probably say 7. Because there's been so much more criticism, and that's because of the Oklahoma game. Chris Sims went through that. He's had 2 bad games against Oklahoma, and that's fair. But it's not fair to say he hasn't done anything right. When you win at Oklahoma State on a 4th down and 6, where he makes a great play, and then hits Mike Davis down the sideline to win the game. He had some great games. He dominated Ole Miss.
He said he felt like the team became his team after the Oregon State game. How important is that for him to feel like, hey, this is my team? You've gone through that with some of your guys in the transition years.
Yeah. Can I borrow that gun? Good. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I probably better not in Texas. I'd get in trouble. Oh, it did? I'll say.
I just want to know who you're aiming at.
Right.
Yeah. One more time. I've been smart of it.
He said he felt like the team is his
yes.
team. Now, he played quite a bit beforehand, but how much is it important for a quarterback to think, hey, this is my bunch of guys?
I think it's really important, and that's why he hadn't been here for 2 years. We were back and forth between he and Garrett Gilbert and he and Case McCoy, and now it's him. And what we thought is that you can't be an 8-4 quarterback at Texas, and that's what we were going into the ball game. And then all of a sudden we said, okay, it's big for you, because do we need to start looking at other quarterbacks? Do we need to go look at junior college players? Come on, it's time to play, time to step up. And Major made a great point for him. He said, make some plays with your feet. I need 5-6 plays where you make plays with your feet. He had great scrambles. He had the scramble with a touchdown throw to Jonathan Gray. He had a quarterback draw where he dove in the end zone. And I told him he needed to have more excitement. He needed to have more emotion. And he needed to show the guys this is important to him and to us. And when he scored the touchdown, he spiked the ball and he came back, stuck his finger in my face and said, is that all right? And I said, yeah. I didn't care if you get a penalty. I'd like to see a little emotion, get you going. But he walked out of that game into the off season and into spring practice knowing this was his team. And from all indications this summer, he's done the same.
Mack Brown. This is Bryan Houston, Rattle and Hum Sports.